So good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all you gorgeous viewers out there around the globe. And I hope your day, evening or afternoon is going well and you are creating into this life that you're living everything you truly desire from heart. It's time in our world now for us to be creating consciously. So today we have as our guest in Intimate Conversations is Malek Emir. So welcome, Malek. And thank you so much for coming in and having this chat with us.
Hello, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor for me to be here and for me to conversate with you today. So thank you again.
Welcome. And it'll be an interesting conversation, I'm sure. So my glasses are all fogging up. It's hot over this side of the world. So Malek, you're in America, USA?
Yes, I'm in the United States. I live in San Francisco, California. So it's a very popular place, tourist attraction, very busy here, and a very expensive place to live as well. But I love it here. I've been here for my whole entire life. My parents were born in San Francisco. So I'm a native and I love it here.
Oh, gorgeous. Yeah, I've heard it's very, I have never been to the States. I would like to eventually one day, maybe when life settles down, in the world a bit, starts traveling
Absolutely.
again. So Malek, you have, I'm just going to read your little intro here and introduce you to the viewers. So, and then we'll get into our little convo.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So Malek Emir is the founder of Quantum Elite Community and also a lead generation coach. He first came online back in 2016 and has become the number one and third top income earner in a health and wellness company, which uses quantum energy information to put the mind and body in complete balance. Over the years, he has helped thousands of people to earn income from home, elevate their consciousness and become the best version of themselves. Beautiful, Malek. And I say number one because in my book, from the time I've met you, which was in the Quantum Elite community, you are number one in my books. You are a fantastic leader. I've watched you for the last, it's about two years ish. Would be
About 2 years.
3 years actually, when I think back. And I've watched you just power off, like you have just taken off in leaps and bounds. And I'm watching you free yourself so much and all of what you're doing in Bitcoin, coins and the crypto world, basically, and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to get you to talk all about those sorts of things and tell us how it all started for you. Like, what was your childhood like? Were you aware, conscious, aware child when you were young?
So I would say that I was very conscious, like when I was younger. I never took things at face value. I always used to like do my own research and I would always look further and deeper into things and things like that. But growing up here in the Bay Area, like I said, it's a very high cost of living. I used to live in a very downtrodden area, like when I was growing up and stuff like that, with a big family. My father was working. My mom, she just was a housewife. She stayed at home with us and raised us very well, took very good care of us and stuff like that. But it was a one income household. And my father was a hard worker, but he was never there. He used to work 7 days a week and he used to work 12-hour days. So only time I would see him was like late at night and things like that. When I was a child, they had a show called Arsenio Hall. It was like a late night TV show. And I used to stay up to try to watch that show because I knew if I stayed up that long, then I'd be able to see my father walk in the door. So I would say that I was very consciously aware. And I also had to get the gift of learning how to create my own income very young. So that was one thing that I did. I started to learn how to create my own income, not in grade school, but in like the middle school years and things like that. And back when I was a younger child, I used to get into what most people would consider to be like conspiracy theories and stuff like that. I was always like kind of
Yeah.
into that kind of stuff because I felt like there was some hidden truths that they were keeping away from us. And in order to find those
Hmm.
truths, you would have to kind of sort of delve into what most people would consider to be conspiracies and things like that. But yeah, I had a pretty good upbringing, all brothers, no sisters or anything like that. And I was
Yep.
able to eventually get myself out of that downtrodden area. My father actually purchased a home in a suburb of the Bay Area, and from there, life has been even better. And it's been a phenomenal time in this existence so far.
Yeah, beautiful. So how many siblings have you got? You said big family. How many in your family?
So from my mother and father together, we have a total of 6 boys. And then my father actually had 2 children before he married my mother. So I have a total of, I guess you could say, 7 brothers. So a pretty big family with no sisters. So, that was my upbringing and things like that. So, I mean, growing up with
Yeah.
that many brothers, you kind of learn how to like take care of yourself at a very young age. So I was like catching a bus when I was like 5 years old with like a key around my neck. And, my parents thought I was very responsible. So they would give me like responsibilities that most children in this day and age would never be able to enjoy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
And yeah, so yeah,
So
growing up with that sort of a household,
yeah.
it really taught me young how to like fend for myself and things like that. So I had a strong knack for creating my own income. So when I made it into like the junior high years, I actually started my own candy business. My mom, she took me to a place called Costco. I'm not sure if you guys have those in New Zealand, but it's a
Just
store where you
come
can
into
buy
New
things in
Zealand.
bulk. You guys have it?
Just now. It's only just come into the Auckland, our main city. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's awesome. So now we have
Mm.
something in common. So that store Costco, it's been a staple of my life because it kind of solidified my journey as far as like creating my own income. So they have these little lollipops called blow pops. When I was young in like the 6th grade, my mother took me to buy a box that cost like 50 bucks or so. And I would basically sell those blow pops for like 50 cents a pop and stuff like that. And that's basically how I first started to create my own income and things like that. So I was selling a lot of candy, and I was making a lot of money. And then I started to, be able to take care of myself. So that was kind of like the beginning stages of my entrepreneurial journey. And that's kind of like what sparked my interest of being able to create my own income. And I was so young, I didn't even know about working for someone else at the time. So since that time, I've done so many different entrepreneurial things, but that was just kind of like the start to my journey.
Wow, that's cool. How old were you then
I would
when you?
say about 11 years old.
Oh wow, that's really cool. That's too
Yeah.
cool. I used to gather we had a huge big walnut tree on our farm when I was a kid. And my dad was like yours. He worked a lot. He was away, often, and farming, and he was a shearing contractor as well. So he was away with that. And I would collect up all the walnuts and then I'd shell them for a grocer's that was in our hometown, and they would accept them. So there would be pieces, then there'd be halves, and the holes. If I could get the shell off and not break the actual, I got more money for the holes, the ones that were complete. And I
Absolutely.
remember saving up, to buy my first pair of roller skates when I was
Wow.
about eight or nine. Same thing. It was great.
Yeah.
It was so cool. So good on
That's
you, Malek. So yeah, keep going in that story. I love it. So then what? What did you do? Like, what are some of the things that you went into as you were getting older and learning?
So one part of my story that I don't want to leave out is that I was like very adventurous as a kid. Like you mentioned, skates. I used to ride on roller skates. I used to ride on roller blades when those first came out and stuff like that. And I was really into
Yeah.
skateboarding. Like I could have become a professional skateboarder. Like I was like able to do all the tricks and flips and all of that kind of stuff. And then I was also a
Yeah.
bicyclist as well. So I did a lot of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I was, I had a friend, his name was Eric. I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but I was a very adventurous kid. I used to fix up my own bikes, change handlebars, brakes, all this stuff. So there was one day where I was actually at my friend Eric's house, and he lived a little bit away from me, kind of like maybe a block or so away. So I was at his house and we were changing parts on bikes and we were putting different brakes and stuff like that. And I think I must have made a mistake at the way that I set my brakes up. And I was pulling out of the driveway from this complex where he lived at, and I was actually hit by a car while I was riding my bike. It was an older car. It was like a 59 Chevy. So it was like one of those made of steel cars. And the kicker is
Solid.
the guy
Yeah.
that hit me, he was eating a piece of Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? So he obviously wasn't paying attention. I flew up in the air and everything, and then I landed back on my feet. But I thought I was okay. The guy, he actually took off, because he hit a kid. He didn't stick around. He took off, and then I ended up carrying my bicycle
Wow.
and I walked back home. So I was in a excruciating pain. I had called my father and I asked him if he can come home because, like I said, he was always working. He was the only one that had a car in my family. We didn't have another car at that time. So in order for me to get to the hospital, he had to leave home from work, literally carry me, put me in the car, take me to the hospital. And then I figured out that I had a fractured femur. So I was in a full body cast for about 6 weeks and I couldn't move. I couldn't go to school. My teachers came and they would come to my house every single day, and that's pretty much how my lifestyle was for a while. I was pretty much incapacitated. Yeah.
Wow. That would have been a big, that takes a lot to get your head into accepting those sorts of accidents, when you're, you know, sort of laid out like that for weeks. I know for myself, I used to have lots of accidents and break lots of bones, and it was like getting my head around that that's what I've done, and I have to
Yeah,
just suck it up now and, heal myself. Well, like, get on with healing. Yeah. Oh,
absolutely.
wow, Malek, you were lucky that was really all that it was really, being hit
Yeah,
by a vehicle like that.
absolutely. So once I
Yeah.
finished that journey and I was able to like get myself out of the cast, initially when I came back, I couldn't even walk anymore. I was I had to learn how to walk all over again. I had to go through like rehabilitation and stuff like that because once your body is stiff for so long, I mean, 6 weeks doesn't sound like a long time,
Yeah.
but if you're not moving, walking, and using those muscles for 6 weeks, once you come out of the cast, you pretty much don't have enough muscle mass to like walk around and do anything. So I pretty much had to learn how to, walk and do all that kind of stuff all over again. And then once I got back into school again, I actually started to create my own music. And I had a friend who was like a really good graphic artist. He used to do all these cartoon pictures and things like that. And at that time, I'm a little bit older now, you guys, so I'm gonna let my age show a little bit. At this time, they only had like karaoke machines, and we used to have these CDs, which were called like bass CDs, where it was kind of like techno music and stuff like that. So that was basically how I learned to
Yeah.
start doing my music, was with the karaoke machine and these bass cassettes and stuff like that. And then I would just record some lyrics to it and stuff like that. And then I would put it on a cassette tape, and then I would sell the cassette tapes along with like candy at the school. So now I have the candy, I have these cassette tapes, and now I'm making money as a young child. So yeah, that was a great experience.
Wow. That was awesome. That would have
Yeah,
been so much fun.
it was. It really was. And we used
Yeah.
to have a lot of fun creating the music, and it was great because I had other friends that would get involved like with the creative process of like doing these different album covers and stuff, but it was all by hand. You know, it was all like hand drawn and stuff like that. One of my friends that was really good in the art class, I asked him if he can start doing that for me. So he decided to do it. And from there, eventually I furthered my journey in the music career. So by the time I got to high school, I literally had like my own record label. I had my own CDs that I would put in the stores on consignment and stuff like that. So I would literally control my own finances because I was getting a big cut because like if I want to go sign a record deal, I would probably get 25 to 15% royalties if I was lucky. But since I was doing my own record label and I would put the CDs in stores on consignment, I would make about $10 per CD that was sold and stuff like that. So I started to make some really good money. Like when I was in high school, about 15, 16 years old, I was making some really good money at that time.
Wow, that's so cool. I love that. I do. I love it. I think it's a beautiful thing to see children and yeah, all young people being inspirational like that, you know, like just getting in and creating what they want to. And yeah, my daughter used to make little beaded bracelets and things and sit out at the driveway with a little table and sell them all. There's so many people would buy them. It was amazing. And put in orders for her to deliver to them the next day, you know. It's really good. It's
and that
crazy. I
just
love it.
and that just kind of proves that, you know, we're creators, you know. And some of us we find out
Yeah.
younger, some of us find out when we get older. I think a lot of people, they tend to figure out that they're creators once they get a little bit older in life and things like that. But some of us, we're kind of more present to that reality, and we become creators at a
Mm,
very young age. So I was literally
yeah.
creating from the time I was very, very young. And the household that I grew up
Mm,
in, we
that's
didn't
so
really
cool.
have any type of like,
Very, very good. And then it just progressed from there, obviously, Malek, for where you are now. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, my family, the way that I grew up,
And
we didn't really have any like religious upbringing, so to speak. My grandmother, she was a Jehovah's Witness, but she passed away when my mom was 12 years old. So my mom was taken into like a foster home and stuff like that. And my dad's mom, she was a religious person, like a Baptist Christian or something, but I didn't know her. So in my household, we literally didn't
yeah,
have any religion or anything like that to believe in. So I was pretty much just on my own, learning life and just, you know, creating as I chose, so to speak. And it was a lot of
yeah.
fun. I was able to do a lot of cool things that most people would never even imagine at a very young age just by creating my own reality, so to speak.
Did you like I was the same. We had no religious anything in our home, so I was left to just find my way, which was great. I really loved it. So it was open field really. But I found what I found, and I'm older than you, so it was more in my time. I found that there was this path that you were all supposed to go on. Everyone was supposed to just do the same thing and go that way. And I
Yep.
knew at a younger age that was not my life. And I knew that there was probably going to be some, you know, head banging because I wasn't going to do as I was expected to do. Did you find that, Malek? Did you get sort of people maybe not supporting you as much because they thought you were doing the wrong thing? You should be doing what everyone else is doing and, you
Oh
know,
yeah,
carry on the way they did.
absolutely. Especially
Yep.
from my father, you know. He was the person because the music that I did at the time was like, you know, hip hop music, and I was creating my own reality that way. And my dad, he was very like anti of, you know, creating my own reality in that such a way. He really didn't like
Yeah.
music whatsoever, and he was a working man, so he figured, you know, if you want to make money, you need to go get yourself a job and stuff like that. So I did go get a job
Yeah.
when I was very young. I had my first job at 14 years old, and I was making like $4.25 and stuff like that. And I was working at some little hot dog stand, and I was making my own money, but I was actually making more money on my own than what I was making when I first had that job. So that opened my mind up even more to the fact of
Yeah.
why am I working here in this place where I'm making milkshakes for people who are very disrespectful, and they're rushing me, and this was old fashioned milkshakes that come in those like little those metal containers and stuff, and we
Yeah.
actually had to blend them up and everything. So it was hard work. Most people wouldn't
Yeah.
imagine the work it takes to just make a milkshake at in those times. But
Yes.
it took a
Yeah.
lot of work, and I was working really hard for a low wage at the time. So it just really further
Mm,
opened my mind to the possibilities of what I could do on my own. And I just continued to travel on
yeah.
that journey until I got to where I am today, for sure.
Yeah. I so remember that at 13, I was working in a dairy, and we'd get bus loads coming in, and I'd be on my own. They'd leave me on my own in this dairy, working 2 days of the weekend, um, and dealing with bus loads of people coming in all at once. It was crazy. And I'd have to do all that. The milkshakes, there were two stirrers
Yep,
on them, and you could, yeah.
exactly.
Oh my goodness, yes. And then you pour it into the cardboard container that you give them to take away. But yeah, and I started my apprenticeship. My hairdressing apprenticeship was the only deal that mum and dad made with me, that if I was leaving school at 15, because I wasn't into school at all, it just wasn't giving me what I knew I needed. I didn't really know what that was, but it wasn't teaching me anything much. And so they made a deal that if I was to leave school at 15, as I said I was going to, then I had to have an apprenticeship. So I went into a hairdressing apprenticeship, and I was earning, it was the actual amount of the year. So it was 1972, and I was earning $19.72 a week. That
Wow.
paid for everything though. I could fill my motorbike up for 60 cents.
Yeah,
It was totally different scale to where we are today. But gosh, I bought clothes and everything and shampoos, everything I needed for $19 a week. It was just crazy, insane when you look at it now. Gosh,
absolutely. Times have
yeah,
definitely changed. That's for sure. And
they so
I took myself from that journey of working at this little hot dog stand, creating these shakes for people and stuff like that. And then I just furthered my music career, because I thought to myself, I'm making my own money. I remember one day I got in trouble at school because I had like $600 in my pocket, so they thought that I was doing something that was wrong, but I was just selling my music, and I was just, making money that way. And I was actually planning on going with one of my friends that went to school with me, that I do a lot of music with, even still to this day. And he owns his own stores now and everything. He has his own franchise business, his own brand
wow,
and stuff like that with clothing. But in those days, me and him were just local kids going to high school, and we were planning on buying this like keyboard and drum machine and all this kind of stuff. So my father got phoned up that I had all this money, and then he basically took my money away from me and stuff like that. So I had to go and sell more CDs and cassette tapes in order to raise my funds back up so I could go get the drum machine and keyboard that I wanted to get. But eventually I got it. And from that point, I started to develop my music even further. And I had a
mhm,
lot of people that wanted to give me record deals and things like that, but I turned it down because I wanted to stay independent and not have anyone like control my artistic abilities and stuff like that. So
yeah, yeah,
eventually, I ended up working with very popular artists like such as like Snoop Dogg, who many people may have heard
oh,
of,
wow,
and
yeah,
many other people that were very high up in the ranks of the music world. And once I did a song that was on my album, not on someone else's album, that had a feature like that, it really took off. And then I ended up making my first six figures at that time with my very first CD that I put into the stores on consignment and things like that. So it really took me to another height. And it really changed my life forever once I was able to make that type of money. I figured I would probably never work another job again in my life at that point.
wow, that's so cool. Good
Yeah.
on you. Wow. And I was just saying the other day about, most multi-millionaire people have had great loss in that too. You know, they've
Mhm.
learned by losing it all and then going in again and building it again. You know, have you had those sorts of experiences, Malek, or has it all
Wow,
just sort of flowed really well for you?
your energy is so amazing. You must have picked up on it. So, what I was gonna say next is that I thought that I would never have to work another day in my life, right? But once I started to have children, you know, obviously, if you have Snoop Dogg on your records, it's something that's probably not appropriate for children, right? So eventually, as I
Yes.
got older, I didn't want to have that type of lifestyle or image for my family. So I wanted to change myself. So I got myself
Mm,
totally out of the music industry after making boatloads of money and stuff like that. And then I actually went into an apprentice school. So I went to become an electrician apprentice because I figured electricians make a lot of money. I could live a similar lifestyle to the lifestyle that I was living when I did my music. So I went through the school, I got my apprenticeship and everything like that. But then after I finished my apprenticeship, I mean, really, when I got down to my last couple classes, the teacher started asking me, do you have any people that have like a hookup for you to get a job or anything like that? And I was thinking, well, you guys are supposed to have 85% placement. So I thought that they were going to be the ones to find me a job. But after going through the whole process, they told us at the very end, we were responsible for finding our own jobs. So it was
oh
very
gosh.
heartbreaking, and I ended up
Yeah.
spending a lot of money on the school. But I'm a person that if I start something, I love to finish. A lot of people, they didn't
Yeah.
finish and they got the money back that they put towards the tuition. But even though we got to the tail end and I knew I was going to be responsible for my own job, I finished, got the apprenticeship, but I wasn't able to find a job in the electrician field. So what happened from there is I went back into CNC machining, which was something that my father did. And I started to do that. I started to live like a regular lifestyle. I started to work like 6 days a week and started to have more kids and stuff like that. And I got to a point where I was making some pretty decent money, living a decent lifestyle. I was totally out of the music scene and everything was good until it wasn't. So what happened was my job, it started to get very, very slow. There was just one part that went to the customer that was not meeting the specs, and they totally shut our whole entire plant down. So they started to request for us to take leave. So we had to take 8 hours per week leave. So we were only working 32 hours. And most of the work that we were doing was just like scrubbing the walls and cleaning machines, just like busy work and stuff like that. So at that point,
Right.
I met my mentor in network marketing. I met him at this event that we had on a very special night. And when I met him, we didn't talk anything about entrepreneurship or anything like that. We just exchanged numbers and stuff like that. And then we agreed that we would meet up. And what happened was we didn't even plan to meet up. There was like a big barbecue that happened in Oakland, California. And I went to this barbecue and I seen him there again. We were in line waiting for food together. And then he was happy to see me. I was happy to see him. We got our families together, the kids, the wives, everything. We were all together. And then from there, he started to tell me a little bit about his entrepreneurial journey, and he started to talk a little bit about how he was in the electrician field. So that piqued my interest, that he had a company that he was
Yes.
working with that had to do with electricity. And since I never had really an opportunity to do that, it kind of sparked my interest, and it ended up being a network marketing company. I don't know, can I say the company name on your show?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no worries.
So it's a company called Ambit Energy, and it's been around for a very long time. And what these people do is they actually save you on your electricity bill. So I thought here in the United States, I don't know if it's the same in New Zealand, but we hate the electrical people. We hate paying the electrical bill and stuff like that because a lot of times it's outrageous and we don't feel like it's worth the amount that we have to pay. So I thought this is going to
Yeah.
be an easy sell because I'm not selling anything. The only thing I'm doing is asking people to switch their power from like PG&E here in the United States to Ambit Energy, and they're going to save on their electricity bill. So that was my first
Right.
journey into network marketing, and you can kind of guess what happened from there.
Mhm. Yeah, beautiful. Wow. I know everything. Our power companies over here are pretty outrageous too. I think we've all just got used to paying it really and expecting high power. There's no other
Yeah.
options for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought
Yeah.
this company was gonna like retire me. And I was actually connected to some very powerful people. So there's a guy named Brian McClure, and you can look him up even to this day. He's in the top 10 income earners, I believe, still in the network marketing arena. So he's a very powerful figure. I was put on a phone call with him by my sponsor, and he really lit me up. And I felt like, wow, I'm going to become a millionaire with this company. And then he connected me to another gentleman named Kirk Haran, who was what they call a yellow jacket. So this yellow jacket means that he earns like $1 million per year. And he had been with this company for over 10 years. He had a very good story and stuff like that. So I came into the company, I hit the ground running, but I had no skills, I had no experience or anything. So what do we usually do? We run to our friends and family. And even my own father didn't switch his PG&E or his electricity bill over to Ambit. And I only have one friend that actually did that. So I hit a very low spot in my life, how you were asking if I ever lost it all, right? So
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
time, I'm still working my job. I have 32 hours a week. I have to put a vacation day every single week just to have a full 40 hours. And I was used to working overtime at this time. I'm in this network marketing company. I'm not making a dime and I'm working super hard. So my friend that actually did switch his electricity over to Ambit Energy, he was doing something called Uber. And I had never, I think I had heard of Uber. And to be honest with you, I think I kind of made jokes about people that used to drive for Uber at those times, because
Yeah.
I was at a high caliber, I was making all this money. And unfortunately, I didn't see it as something that I would ever get myself into. And then that was the low
Yeah.
spot of my life when I was driving for Uber only for 1 month. And I drove for 1 month, and they had this bonus where if you got 100 rides, you would get an extra 750. I would get the 750, and my friend would get the 750. So I did it. I got the 750. He also got the 750. And then I quit driving Uber forever after that. And I've never picked it back up. But that was the low spot of my life where I felt like I had lost it all. My job was in shambles. I wasn't living the entrepreneurial lifestyle that I was living before. And I was in a very tough spot at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you find when you were doing the regular 9 to 5-ish, did you find like you felt like groundhog? There was no real creative energy or juices flowing, eh? It gets a little stagnant.
Absolutely. I felt like it really suppressed the entrepreneur that was inside of me, and I
Yeah.
wanted to awaken that spirit again. And I felt, like you said, it was like a repetitive cycle, especially in that type of an industry. It was definitely like Groundhog's Day. It was almost like every day was the same. It was redundant work. It was very repetitive.
Yes.
And it was
Yeah.
almost like a dead end job at that point because I reached a level where I probably wouldn't be able to go beyond, so to speak. So I even talked to my manager. I asked him if I went to school, would I be able to further my position with the company? And he told me flat out, he said, no. He said, those positions are already secured by other people. If you wanted to pursue something like that, you would have to leave here and go to another company. So I made up my mind that
Wow.
it would be the last job that I ever worked. And from there, I just started to do more entrepreneurial things. I started to get into like some affiliate marketing, and I started to use like email marketing, paying for traffic and stuff like that. And I took my 401k out of my company, and I had about $13,000, and I invested it into network marketing opportunities. I invested into like my mentorship, coaching, learning from people who made 6 and 7 figures, because I knew that there had to be a catch to it. Like, there's no way that you
Yeah.
can start a business for like $100 and just become some millionaire. I knew that there had to be some hidden costs, hidden skill sets, and I wanted to figure out what those were. So that's how I
Mm.
basically became the lead generation coach. As I joined into some attraction marketing platforms, I learned how to basically use my own content to attract people to my offers and my opportunities and stuff like that. And then from there, in 2017, I actually got myself involved in my first cryptocurrency opportunity, and I made my first six figures online. And that happened within about a 6 month span. I literally got into Bitcoin at 1,500 and went all the way up to 20,000. And next thing you know, I made six figures. I'm traveling. I went to Hawaii for the very first time, and life just became good all over again.
Wow, that's so cool. I love it. I love how you just keep going though, and that's what we it's sort of, it's just this drive within us, isn't it, to be able to free flow in life, not be and confined into those spaces like the nine to five jobs, because it just doesn't flow that energy and that creativity in us at all. But that's so great, Malek.
Absolutely.
Amazing stuff. And the community, the Quantum Elite community, how did that sort of come about? Because that's a great platform.
It is a great platform. So what
Mm.
happened was, once I got involved in cryptocurrency, I ended up making my first six figures, right? And then from there, I wanted to get into other things. So I started to get into other opportunities and things like that. I started to kind of learn how to trade on my own because I got to the point where I wanted to kind of learn the ins and outs of all that stuff. So I paid for mentorship to learn how to do that. All the while I'm trying to, retire my wife at the time, because she was still working a regular job. So what happened was I basically had to figure out other ways and means to generate income. So one of my friends, actually the same person that brought me into network marketing, the same person who gave me my first opportunity with Ambit Energy, I had separated myself from him for maybe like a year or two to further my skill sets and pay for mentorship, coaching, training, and stuff like that. And then one day he had just came back from Malaysia, and he had a trip out there where he met with some multimillionaires and stuff like that. And this one guy gave him this technology that said that it would actually give him spider senses, right? So he was like intrigued by, what this guy had just said. So he actually paid for his subscription. It was like $100 a month. And it was like some digital technology that works in the quantum field and all this other kind of stuff. So he actually called me up on a Facebook Messenger call, and his eyes were beaming, and he looked like he just had so much energy flowing through his body. And I was just like, wow, like whatever this guy is on right now with this high vibration, give me some of that, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he came to my house, and he paid for my subscription. And once he paid for my subscription, I set it all up. And it was a little woo-woo to me at the time because I wasn't in the quantum field or anything. I wasn't into that space. So I tried it. I thought it was going to be a total loss of money or whatever. I'll just cancel it after 30 days and stuff like that. But to my surprise, I actually did feel a change. I felt a huge change in my mindset. I felt like I was able to attract things into my reality. And I felt like I had so much more abundance that was coming into my life. And then the story that I told you about, like how I broke my hip, that was kind of like my first breakthrough, because this application, it had these settings on there. One of them was for pain relief. And one of the parts that I left out of my story was that after I got hit by the car, for several years, I was on pain medication. I was taking ibuprofens. I used to take Vicodins and stuff like that. And there was
Yeah.
no solution or cure for me. I would go to the doctor and say, hey, I'm taking huge bottles of ibuprofen. This is 800 milligrams. This is going to destroy my insides. Do you guys
Yeah.
have any solution or alternative for me? And there was never an alternative. It was just buy more pills, buy more pills, buy more pills. So once this technology was working for my mindset and I felt like a paradigm shift, I decided to see if this technology would actually work for other things. So I tried to see if it would actually work on my back pain and stuff like that. And it actually did. So that was a huge breakthrough for me.
Yeah. Wonderful. So, so you're saying technology, like what, how do you explain that part, if you could?
So it's a biofeedback technology, which basically uses your voice as a means to basically know exactly where to send the energy information. So it's voice activated biofeedback technology, and your voice basically becomes like the marker. And it's unique. Everyone has a unique marker, which is your voice, that's totally different than anyone else's voice, right?
Yeah.
So it basically sends you this energy information that comes from the cloud, and it actually goes to your quantum field, right? So I tried this info boost, which was called pain relief. And then I tried another one that was called sleep. So I tried both of these info boosts. And what happened was I would fall asleep and I would have the greatest night's sleep. I would wake up feeling like a newborn baby. I didn't have any pains in my body. I got myself off of all the horrible medications and stuff like that. And I said,
Beautiful.
kiss Big Pharma goodbye.
Yes. Yay. That's incredible. That's great stuff. Very, very cool. So, I don't know, can people get into that, Malek, at all? Like if you were to give us the links for that, for that I can put up with the recording when we're finished.
Yeah, so we can definitely do that. I can definitely share some information about that.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that will benefit tremendously for the body, for the mind, for the spirit, to have the connection with the quantum field and everything like that. So it's definitely something that I can share and recommend as something that people can use to even, get more into that creative consciousness and everything
Yeah.
like that, for sure.
And well-being, that's like the main thing really, and all of it. Once you're in that well-being space, it's like everything else sort of opens up, doesn't it? If we're in pain, we're just, like, oh, drawing everything in. We become sort of insular, don't we? Because we're just so focused in the pain. It just
Absolutely.
takes us to a whole different place. Oh,
Absolutely.
that
So
was
that was
really
a
cool.
huge breakthrough for me, like to have lifelong pain that I was going through, and I felt so horrible, and I was never able to take that pain away except with medication. And to have this application that was able to do it from the quantum field was something that really raised my eyebrows. So at that
Mm,
point, I realized that we had a great product. I started to share my testimony with everyone, and people saw a huge shift in the way that I carried myself. My speech, everything changed at that point. And then I started to really manifest a lot of different success into my life. That was the company that I actually became the #3 income earner in. I had never been in a network marketing company except for Ambit, which I really don't consider, because that company was my first go and I didn't
yeah.
have any experience. So this was like my first go into a really solid network marketing company in the health and wellness space. And I ended up becoming the #3 income earner. I was able to actually retire my wife at that point, and she was able to stay home with the kiddos and all of that good stuff. And I started to really get the first taste of like real residual income, where I didn't have to do anything, but every week I had checks that were coming in and stuff like that. And then I started to manifest. I started to talk about things that I wanted in my life, and I started to bring those things into reality. And it was a powerful thing for me to actually be able to like manifest and to go through a process of metamorphosis and things like that. It was very, very
Yes.
powerful for me in my life. So that's how Quantum Elite actually got birth, was through this company that I had became a part of, became a top income earner and stuff like that. And the products were really, really good. And the type of people that I was attracting to me were different type of people like yourself, people that were very self-aware, people that had these spiritual gifts, and people that were inclined to share their gifts with others and stuff like that. So at
Mm,
that point, I decided to myself, I said, this product is great. I said, it's a good compensation plan and all of that kind of stuff. But I wanted to have a bigger purpose that was greater than myself. You know, this tool could help people in so many ways, but I wanted to kind of gather people with the same mission to increase the collective consciousness and things like that. So I started to work with people who were light workers. I started to work with people who did subconscious programming, people that did NLP, and all of these different sorts of things. And then I created what was called the Quantum Elite community and things like that. So it was a very, very impactful part of my life. And I'm still so happy that I was able to do it, because the connections that we made in the community were lifelong connections.
Yes, absolutely. Just my short time on the Quantum Elite, you know, and I moved out of it because there was other things coming in that I could feel that I needed to put my energy and time into. But it was lovely community and supportive of each other. That's what I loved about it. Like, it actually is a community, a caring community that others were, you know, we were all caring about each other. It was lovely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a platform to be able to share ourselves on too and open to. So that was really lovely.
Yeah, that was my whole idea. Like, I had gotten to the point where I had made some significant income. I was making really, really good income online at that point, but I realized that there was a lot of people that had gifts and they needed to be able to share those gifts and abilities. And another thing I noticed was that most of the people who had these gifts and abilities, they would basically work for free. They would work for like no wages, and they would just accept donations and different things like that. So I wanted to figure out if there was a way that I can create a platform where people would be able to share their gifts, but be compensated at a level which would be, you know, which would be fitting, basically, you know? So I tried to create this community. And when we first started it off, there was no money involved. It was basically like, you come into this community for free. You get to come to all these classes. If you love these classes, then you can go ahead and get yourself a subscription. And I was the one who set it up in this type of manner. But what happened was that after a while, I don't want to say greed, but a lot of people, they wanted to put a price tag on the community. And I think that's what kind of, you know, messed things up, in my opinion. And at the time, you know, I didn't want to be like a dictator. You know, I wanted to have an actual community where we all work together as one community. I didn't want to be the only person making decisions. So I had a kind of like a council of people that I worked with, and we would all try to make decisions together. And, you know, I was overruled basically to put a price tag on a community. And I think that that was one of the things that really messed it up, because when you have a free spirited community where people can come as they are, there's no price tag. They come and they get this this vibe for free, and they can go ahead and pay for it at their own will. Everyone was signing up left and right because they didn't have any type of force, or they weren't coerced into like signing up for anything, so to speak.
Yeah. I can agree with that, really. Yeah. That is, yes. And this is the thing today, isn't it? Everything comes back to that, doesn't it? It's quite often we get things shut down because of greed. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you find, Malek, that in the sense of your, you know, the marketing side, did you find that you had people that were, like, even though they might know you, they didn't trust the product, or they didn't trust the, you know, like say crypto, you know, going into platforms and into different areas in there, you know, did you just find people found it hard to trust you and to trust the product or whatever it might be that you might be selling as such? Not quite, but you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people are very weary, aren't they, you know, today, because there's so much scam out there. It's sort of, it's got so wild.
Yeah,
Isn't
it
it?
has. I mean, I would say like with the products that I was using with the quantum energy, people were very skeptical about that product in the very beginning. Most people thought that I was just, you know, I was just making things up, or, you know, these stories that I was talking about that were miraculous were just people who were like, you know, paid people who just wanted to make some money and stuff like that. So I got a lot of pushback with that product in the very beginning. It took me a while to really build it, but I kind of built it based on my own testimonial. And I kind of just talked about like how it benefited me. And then if other people wanted to try it to see how it could benefit them, they would just have to take the leap of faith and try it out.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of pushback at that time. A lot of people didn't believe in the product that I was selling and stuff like that. And even now, people are very leery about, you know, cryptocurrency, different things. But overall, my character has been what most people kind of rest upon.
Yes.
So most
Yeah.
people, they know, like me, and trust me for the simple fact of the way that I do my marketing. I'm not a person that is just looking for money. I'm a very helping person. There's a lot of
You
people
are.
that will testify for how much I've helped them over the years. People comment on my post and give me so much praise and so much love and things like that. And other people can see that sort of stuff that's happening. And another thing too is that I'm very open. I'm like an open book. I show behind the scenes of my life. I kind of show like my children.
Yeah.
I show like a lot of different things about myself. And most people, when they see all of these different things, they begin to know me a little bit more. They like me a little bit more. And then for some reason, they begin to trust me. So
Yeah.
I don't really have too many trust issues as far as me as a person, but
Mhm.
sometimes the products will cause people to not trust. But a lot of people have told me flat out, they said, you know what? I would never join a crypto opportunity or anything like that, but I trust you, you know? And
Exactly. Yeah.
that's one thing I loved. I learned really very early on is that people are not buying products and services. They're actually buying us. So if they trust us, then they're going to end up
Mm.
trusting the product in the long run.
Yes. And it was through your beautiful self and knowing you and knowing that you were genuine. I knew enough of you anyway to know that you were a genuine hearted person and that you weren't just a salesman. That was so not you. So that's what took me into it as well, Malek, was because I trusted you. And the rapport that I'd had with you was genuine as far as I could feel. So I was in like Flynn, as you know, but it was it's interesting in that, and people do really need to build a rapport, in us as leaders, as us as people too, and selling anything really, and just being our genuine self is what takes, brings people with us, doesn't it? You know,
Absolutely.
and they learn that's really who we are. And that's
Absolutely.
great. And you totally are that person. And I love that you're getting so much back in respect to people coming back to you with these beautiful, loving, supportive words and hugs. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what keeps me going at this point, because I've accomplished so much in my career over the years and stuff like that. So now I dedicate myself to helping other people reach the levels of success that they would like to have in their life. And to me, it all starts with mindset. There's a lot of self work that we have to do to get to where we want to be.
Yes.
And that's the reason why, for me, I work on myself every single day. I wake up, the first thing I do is start working on my mindset, priming my mind. I've always done, a lot of positive affirmations and things like that. And I like to be very clear about what my goals are, write my goals down, and then kind of speak my goals and dreams into existence. And I was
Yes.
actually telling my son about a couple experiences that I had even before I realized, the connection with the quantum field. I remember, I would be like driving down the street and I would look at a place where I wanted to live. There was like a townhome that I wanted to live in. And I was driving by and I said, you know what? I would really love to live in this townhome because I had a townhome that I had lived in before that was really, really nice. And then when I went to become like a laborer and work a regular job, I had lost all of that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
wanted to get into this place and I actually did, I kind of manifested that. And there was another time where I was like driving past a dealership, right? And for some reason, this car had caught my eye, and I actually did a U-turn. I went back over there, and when I left that parking, that that shop, I was actually in the car, driving away with the car was mine, So I've had
Yeah.
these different manifestations that I've done. And the last one that I'll mention is there was this Chrysler 300. I really like that car. It's like a 2006 model. It kind of looks like a Bentley or something like that, And I was
Mhm.
really in love with this car. And I started to look for one because I wanted to buy one in cash outright because I had the money to do so. And I couldn't find it for anything. I couldn't find the exact color that I wanted. I couldn't find the exact year that I wanted and stuff like that. And then I started to actually like speak it into existence and do some affirmations and things like that. And lo and behold, like the next day, I was actually looking for this car and I found one that was right next to the beach side. It was in Half Moon Bay by this beautiful beach right here near San Francisco. I drove down there. I was able to get a little bit of a deal on the car and save myself some money, bought it outright, and then I drove home in that vehicle. So it feels so good, like when you can kind of like manifest things and bring things into reality. Now I do like bigger things, like I manifest homes and different stuff like that. But I don't have to tell you anything about manifestation. You could probably teach me some more things.
It's fun, isn't it? It's so much fun. And are you noticing, like now in this present time, how fast it is? Like it's really quickening, eh?
It is. It is.
It's
And
exciting.
once you get into, your true essence of like who you really are as a creator, I mean, there's really no limitations to what you can do. But that's the reason
Mm,
why we always have to fine tune our mindset, always make sure that we're in a very good high vibration and things like that. And that's why
yeah.
we have to constantly work on ourselves to become the best version of ourselves, try to do as much good as we can and things like that. And just
Mm,
always have that love in nature, looking to help people and not looking at people like a dollar sign, but trying to figure out what
yes.
is their problem and how can you help them solve their problem. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the key, I think, for life here on the planet for the humanity is to really be of service, service to humanity and others out there. There's always something we can do for someone else and just in reaching out. But yeah, it's fun, all right. And I think now is a really, really, for me, I feel like it's really important for people to really get some goals set, to start looking further ahead and setting some, creative flow and into flow. Instead of like we've
Absolutely.
been shut down, with lockdown and all the stuff over the last 3 years, we were sort of just shut down. And now it's time to really open up and start looking further ahead and putting plans into action. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm,
And when we have our foresight, I'm not sure exactly what the situation is there in New Zealand, but I know that most of us are facing, similar circumstances with,
yeah.
the global world economy and hyperinflation and things like that. They're talking
Mm,
about a recession that may be approaching us and things like that. So there's a lot of talks out there. And
yeah.
I think at this time, we have to definitely increase our collective consciousness, right? And try to create that heaven on earth and just be out here to serve people, and try to help people to better
Yeah.
themselves and to help them, especially
Mm,
financially, because it's going to be very difficult for most people who are in a situation that I was once in, where you're dependent on a paycheck. Um, Unfortunately, a lot of people are being laid off, they're losing their jobs, and they don't have any other alternative. So I feel like at this point, I'm just
yes.
looking to help as many people as possible um, to learn how to become the best version of themselves first and foremost, to increase that collective consciousness,
Mm,
and then also be able to earn financially and replace the income that they're losing from these so-called jobs and things like that.
yes. Yes. Yeah. And find that creator within because that's what's going to get them through it. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Malek, it's been lovely. That hour's just shot by, honestly, very quickly.
It did.
So, and I don't know, what would you, I know you've just given so many nuggets, gold nuggets and all the rest of it, but anything else that you'd say to the world, to humanity, and leaving it at this point?
I would say that whether we know it or not, you know, we have some hidden powers within us where we could pretty much do anything that we want to do. And everything that we want to access is present here and now in this present reality. But it's up to us to be able to learn how we can actually be those creators that can manifest everything that we want into our lives to live the life that we truly want to live. And we can't suppress those abilities. We have to be able to strengthen those abilities by working on ourselves every single day, getting into, you know, practices where you're working on your mindset, and first and foremost, just realizing who you are as a creator. And once you realize who you are as a creator, then there's nothing that can stop you. And once you get into those creative flows and you have those abilities where you can actually speak things to existence and you can manifest, from there, you can pretty much become unstoppable. So I would recommend and encourage everybody to do some self-work, do some self-reflection, and also start to figure out how you can actually get your body and your mind in balance. And once you can do that, then the sky's the limit, and the sky is no limit. So there's no limits for you.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so wonderful. Thank you so, so much, Malek, for coming in.
You're
And
welcome.
just, yeah, all the very, very best for eternity, of course.
Absolutely.
And much, much love to you and your family. I love looking at the photos you put up of your little children. They're so gorgeous. And it's lovely to know that you've, you know, retired your wife, that she's able to enjoy her life too as a mum and just be there for her family. It's so lovely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank
you're
you so much for
beautiful.
having me. I really appreciate it. And I enjoy, you know, this show, this segment. And I hope I was able to give some sort of encouragement or shed some sort of light today.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you have. Beautiful stuff. Thank you so, so much. Much love.
Love and light.